Good morning. We'll call our meeting to order. First item we have is request for bill introduction. Senator McGinn.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have two, but I'm waiting for an RS number on another. I had an adjustment. And what this one is concerning health and health care relating to the Kansas Department of Aging and Disabilities and the regulation of supplemental nursing services agencies. And the RS number is 1264.
Any objection? Seeing none. We'll wait till you get your other one. Will remind me at the end of the meeting so I don't forget. Senator Fagg.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have a bill introduction. It's concerning the State Gaming Revenue Fund, and the RS number is 23 RS 1174.
Any objection? Seeing none, it's accepted. Senator Clays.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have a bill regarding delicious treats being provided by whoever's phone just blew up. It's a rule. You have to follow it. I have an introduction of a bill regarding the Kansas Airport Improvement Program transfer from the State Highway Fund. It is RS 1113.
Any objections? Seeing none, it's accepted. Senator Pittman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have a bill for colleague Senator Mary Ware wants to introduce one around information services for the blind. It is RS 0873.
Without objection, it's accepted. Anyone else? Seeing none, we'll move on to our budget reports. We'll start out with the Executive Subcommittee, Senator Alley, Department Administration.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The agency submits a revised estimate of $243 million on budget expenditures and 99.5 on budget FTEs for fiscal year 2023, including $191 million SGF and $36.1 million from ELARF. This represents an overall increase of $10.6 million or 4.3% above the amount approved for 22. The increase is primarily attributed to the addition of $10 million in planned expenditures from the Federal Reserve or the American Rescue Plan Act State Relief Fund for the renovation of the docking building. State Finance Council Resolution 21740 approved the renovation of the docking building into a 3-story building with the office and meeting space. The Department of Administration estimated up to half of the $120 million would be funded from federal monies. According to 22, a legislator approved $60 million SGF for the renovation, and this $10 million reflects the beginning of the federal funds for the project. The revised estimate includes a request for $18,795 in supplemental funding to provide a 5% salary increase to employees of the long-term care ombudsman for 2023. The long care LTCO has 9 regional ombudsmen, 1 state ombudsman, and 1 administrative assistant, 3 unclassified temporary positions. The request amount allocates $15,230 for a salary increase and $3,560 for fringe benefits. The revised estimate also includes $90 million in off-budget expenses and 374 off-budget FTE, which are categorized as to avoid double counting payments from one agency to the other. In the 2023, off-budget expenditures increased by $1.6 million, or 1.8% above 2023 approved amount. The increase is primarily due to accounting and reporting services of 4 other agencies. The governor's recommendation recommends $242.8 million in on-budget expenditures and 99.5 on-budget FTE positions in fiscal year 2023, including $191.7 million SGF and $36.1 million in ELARF. This represents an overall decrease of $168,795, or less than 1% below the agency's revised estimate. The reduction is primarily due to the governor not recommending adoption of the agency's supplemental request to provide a 5% salary increase to employees of the LTCO. The governor also recommends the lapsing of 150,000 SGF that was allotted for a potential gubernatorial transition. The division of the budget is statutory per KS 75-177 or 137, appropriated up to $150,000 in fiscal year where a gubernatorial transition would occur. Absent such a transition, those funds remain unused, and the governor recommends lapsing it back to SGF. The governor recommendation also includes $92 million in off-budget expenditures and 374 off-budget FTE positions, which is the same as the agency revised estimate. Subcommittee concurs with the governor's recommendation for fiscal year 2023 with the following notation. The subcommittee recommends the Senate Committee on Ways and Means consider transferring 500,000 SGF to an endowment for the Friends of Cedar Crest Association at Omnibus. Interest income from this endowment would be used for living quarters at Cedar Crest, and this is to be considered at Omnibus. Any questions on 23?
Questions? Seeing none, please proceed.
Seeing none, we'll move to 24. The agency requests $216 million in on-budget expenditures and 101 FTE on-budget FTE positions for 2024. This includes 135 million SGF and 36 million from the ELARF. This represents an overall reduction of 26.6 million or 10.9% below the agency's revised estimate in 23. The most significant change is attributed to a request for 6.5 million SGF enhancement funding for the deferred maintenance and upgrades at the state printing plant, which houses both printing and central mail operations. Most of the printing plant mechanical, electrical, plumbing, fire protection systems are the original to the construction in 1985 and are or past the medium service life estimate. Examples of the impact this outdated system has on the agency's operational needs and goals, including slowed production and increased waste caused by drastic changes in temperature and humidity, needing to install a temporary HVAC system because the current system is unable to adequately cool the new equipment, and 3, damage to the paper inventories as well as long-term impacts on the digital equipment caused by leaks in the roof and the walls. The agency also requests 1.6 million SGF to enhancement funding to increase the total amount of rehabilitation and repair funding for the Capitol complex to $5 million. This agency indicates the increase is needed to keep the facilities operating in an efficient and safe manner while accounting for the increased cost in labor, materials, and continuing aging of the building. Absent these enhancements, the agency has budgeted $3.4 million for rehabilitation and repair. The request is 18,795 SGF enhancement funding to continue the 5% salary increase to employees for the LTCO. This is the same amount as requested in fiscal year 2023. The amount requested allocates $15,235 for salary increases and $3,560 for fringe benefits. The request also includes $40 million in expenditures for the ARPA State Fund Relief Fund for planned expenditures for the renovation of the docking state office building. This represents an overall decrease of $30 million below the fiscal year 2023, including a reduction of $60 million SGF and an increase of $30 million from the federal ARPA State Relief Fund. The agency request also includes $93.1 million in off-budget expenditures for 374 off-budget FTE positions, which are categorized to avoid double counting payments from one state agency to another. For fiscal year 2024, the off-budget expenditures increased by $1.1 million or 1.2% above fiscal year 2023 revised estimate. The increase is primarily due to the increase in claims filed by the Office of State Employee Health Benefits Plan, 141,526, and an increase in employer contribution expenditures for the group health of 298,930. Governor's recommendation recommends 218.9 million in on-budget expenditures and 111.5 on-budget FTE for fiscal year 2024, including 137 million SGF and 36 million from the ELARF. This represents an overall increase of 2.5 million or 1.1% above the agency's request. The increase is due to the governor's recommendation to establish a division of policy within the division of budget, 1.5 million and 10 FPE positions, conduct a state workforce study of 500,000, and for the employee engagement activities of 500,000. This increase is partially offset by the governor's recommendation not to adopt the enhancement request for 5% salary increase to employees of the LTCO, which is an $18,795 decrease. The governor's recommendation also includes 93 million in off-budget expenditures and 374 off-budget FTE, which is the same as the agency request. The subcommittee concurred with the governor's recommendation for 2024. However, additional information has come about, and the agency's 475 FTE have approximately 70 vacant positions. And at this time, I'd like to make a motion to concur with the governor's recommendation with the following. A motion to not approve the division of policy and 1.5 million and 10 FTE for the year of 2024.
Second by Senator Clay's discussion. Senator McGinn.
Thank you. So what happened between the time that you did your deliberations and came to this meeting?
Senator Alley.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Found out that there's 70 plus positions that are not filled in the department right now, and we're asking for 10 more positions. We can't. This probably could be assumed. So could be absorbed.
Okay, thank you.
Senator McGinn.
Staff, revisor, whoever. So if they have 70 extra FTEs, could they easily do what they desire to do with the FTEs they currently have? Who's going to be talking to me? There you are.
Hello. This would
I think so.
Next question would be, if they have to be in the Department of Budget and they have 70 in other areas, is there a way that you can make transfers of those FTEs, shrink it down to 60, and transfer those to the Division of the Budget? Is that possible?
Senator Alley.
That would be what I would assume could happen. I don't know that could happen, but it seems like we're growing government by adding another 10 positions and another $1 million.
Senator McGinn.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I'd like to ask Stephen Wu that question. I don't know how, come talk to me. I want to know how, if you have extra FTEs in other parts of your agency or your administration, what does it take to transfer those FTEs that maybe they don't use anymore into the Division of Budget?
I would need to double check. I think you can just reclassify positions within
Senator Petty.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. So on this, this addition to what the subcommittee had recommended on removing the 10 positions and the 1.5 million, was the 1.5 million Was that just to fund those 10 positions? What was the 1.5 million that originally that the subcommittee agreed with, the governor? What was that for?
Senator Alley.
It's my understanding to establish a division of policy within a division of budget, and then they want 1.5 million and 10 FTE positions.
Senator Petty.
Thank you. That's what, that's what I'm trying to understand. The 1.5 is not, is it, excuse me, is it for salaries or is it for the cost of the division of policy that would be established within the division of the budget?
Senator Alley.
The way I understand that, it's 1.5 million, and then we have 10 FTE positions.
Senator Petty.
Thank you.
Senator Pittman.
Thank you, and I appreciate the motion, and I appreciate that we don't want to grow government unnecessarily. I am a little concerned that there could be difficulties. My understanding when I talked with the administration that it was not possible to move them between Department of Administration and Department of Budget. There might be conflicting information on the table. I just want to make sure that if they have this as a priority, these are different positions than they have now. They need to have allocated a certain amount of money to pay for these particular positions. They find it's going to be a more efficient way of running the budget process that could help us have more efficient government. I'm hesitant to jump on this amendment. Maybe it'll pass, but I think that we should have a little bit more information about how they can operate and maybe fill these positions, understanding what you're saying, Senator.
Senator Alley.
At this time, I'll yield to Senator McGinn.
Senator McGinn.
Yeah, I just found out from our analysts that all you need to do is get the permission from the governor's office and permission from the Division of Budget, and you can move those positions.
Senator Pittman.
That sounds fantastic. I trust that the governor knows what she's doing, so I won't support this. However, I understand your point, Senator.
Any other questions? Seeing none, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next, we will have the Office of Information Technology Service. Senator Alley.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The
The motion was to pass it out with that amendment.
It was the whole amendment.
Yeah.
He made a motion for the whole thing with the amendment.
Okay.
Senator Alley. Oh. Senator Alley.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to clarify,
Clarify.
not to revote, just to clarify, this is for removing the position and the funding for the Office of Division of Policy and Division of Budget, 1.5 million and 10 FTEs. In addition, that motion was for 23 and 24.
Okay.
I'll move
Now
forward.
Now we'll move on to the Office of Information Technology Service.
Thank you. The agency submits a revised budget of 4.3 million, including 4.3 SGF for on-budget expenditures for 2023. The revised estimate is the same as fiscal year 2023 approved amount. Including this amount is 60,000 in expenditures from the GIS Contracting Services Fund to support state geographical information systems for the user community in Kansas. The agency revised estimate also includes 57.4 million in off-budget expenditures for all special revenue funds, which is an increase in 5.5 million or 10.6% above the fiscal year 2023 approved amount. Off-budget expenditures are categorized as such to avoid double counting payments from one agency to the other. The increase can primarily be attributed to expenditures for software, services, equipment purchased on behalf of other state agencies, 6.5 million. The relocation to the Capitol Complex, 1 million. License costs for new software utilizing the Hosted Services Program, 225,000. Renewal licenses for Cisco and information block maintenance, 175,000. Increased expenditures for temporary professional services, within the client services program, $150,000. One-time purchase of Cisco desk phones, $150,000. An increased expenditure for vendor maintenance services, $100,000. The increase is partially offset by decrease in business productivity program. The decrease is due to the agency shifting costs associated with the Microsoft licensing to the direct billed services program to better align their cost and revenues, $1.5 million. The reduction in service fees related to the Unisys data center, $800,000. The revised estimate also includes 117 off-budget FTE positions for 2023, which is the same as the approved number. The governor concurred with the agency's request for 23, and the subcommittee concurs with the governor's recommendation for 23. Any questions? And I'll move to 24.
Questions? Seeing none, please proceed.
The agency requests 15.8 million, including 15.8 million SGF, which is an SGF increase of 11.5 million or 266.8% above the 23 revised estimate for on-budget expenditures for 24. This increase is attributed to the agency's enhancement request to replace the off-budget special revenue funding for the Kansas Information Security Office and further expand these office capacities. The request includes funding for the cybersecurity training and statewide cybersecurity posture assessment, $6.9 million, salaries and wages to support current and additional information security officers, security engineers, security analysts, and staff to assist the collaboration and partnership with entities such as the local governments and cybersecurity endeavors, $4.5 million, and to purchase equipment to improve the base level of security on the networks, $166,840. The request includes 36 on-budget FTE positions for fiscal year 2024, which is an increase of 36 on-budget FTE positions above the fiscal year 2023 estimate. Note, 18 of these 36 on-budget are new and include 6 information security officers, 8 cybersecurity support staff, and 4 general support staff. The remaining 18 on-budget FTEs are existing within KISO and have historically been funded with off-budget monies. The net increase FTE is 18. The fiscal year 2024 request also includes $51.2 million in off-budget expenditures, all from special revenue funds. This is a decrease of $6.2 million, or 10.8% below the 2023 revised estimate. Off-budget expenditures are categorized as such to avoid double counting payments from one agency to another. The decrease can be primarily attributed to the agency's request to fully fund the KSO from on-budget FGF monies instead of the off-budget sources, $5.2 million, and the elimination of a one-time expenditure for the relocation of OITS to the Capitol Complex, which is $1 million. The request includes 99.0 off-budget FTE for fiscal year 2024, which is a decrease of 18 positions below the fiscal year 2023 revised estimate, and the request includes total FTE of 135. The governor recommends expenditures of $10.1 million all SGF on budget expenditures for 2024. The recommendation is this SGF decrease of $5.8 million, or 36% below the fiscal year 2024 agency request. The decrease is attributed to the governor recommending partial adoption of the agency enhancement request for the new and ongoing cybersecurity activities, and not recommending the portion of the request that would have changed the funding source from Kansas Information Security Office from the off-budget special revenue funds to SGF. The recommendation includes 9 on-budget FTE positions for 2024, which is an increase of 9 FTE above the 23 revised estimate. For 2024, the governor recommendation also includes $56.4 million in off-budget special revenue fund expenditures. The recommendation is an increase of $5.2 million, or 10.2% above fiscal year 24 request. The increase attributed to the governor partially adopting the agency's enhancement request and replacing a portion of SGF money requested for KSO operations with off-budget special revenue funds. The recommendation includes 117 off-budget FTE for fiscal year 2024, which is the same as 2023 revised estimate number. The recommendation includes a total FTE of 126. Subcommittee concurs with the governor's recommendation for 2024. We'll stand for questions.
Question, Senator Pittman.
Thank you. Not a question so much, just a quick comment that this represents a significant investment in cybersecurity. I think it's a good thing. They're pulling back some resources from the agencies and allowing the Central Security Office to operate a little independently, and that allows them to form a more secure posture in the technology realm with 9 full-time resources and some additional patching stuff that will help go towards remediating some of the concerns we've heard consistently on the post audit. So I think this is a really good step forward. Thank you.
Other questions? Seeing none, Senator Alley, you may make a motion.
Make a motion, subcommittee, I make a motion that the committees approve the subcommittee recommendation.
I have a motion, second by Senator Clays. Any questions? 23, 24, correct? Yes. Any questions? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed, motion carries. Next, we'll have Kansas Department of Labor. Senator Alley.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The agency submits a revised estimate of $233.3 million on-budget expenditures for 442.3 on-budget FTE in fiscal year 2023, including $30.3 million SGF, $138.8 million from the UI Trust Fund, and $34 million from federal funds. The revised estimate represents an increase of $14.8 million or 6.8% above the amount approved in 22 legislature. The revised estimate includes 7 supplemental requests and total of $25.6 million in additional spending. The largest request is for $16.5 million SGF to support continued pandemic unemployment assistance operations in 2023. The agency indicates this funding would allow it to repay the U.S. Department of Labor for the overage of PUA, a cost, and continue to work through its backlog of pandemic program claims through the unemployment process, including adjustments and appeals. The money, the agency also requests $3.0 million SGF for the unfunded portion of the UI modernization project in 23. The agency estimates the cost of modernization to be $17.9 million in fiscal year 2023, $14.9 million of which is currently funded. The project tasks scheduled for the fiscal year 23 include developing a requirements management tool, system design, system build and configuration, system testing, and data migration. Additionally, the revised estimate includes 3.9 SGF for UI program positions in 23. These positions were established to address backlog resulting from COVID-19 pandemic. The agency indicates that the other funding sources are not currently available to allocated to these positions. The funding would support the UI program operations, as some of the existing personnel are diverted to the UI modernization project. This funding also provides salary increases to certain positions that the agency has found to be inadequate compared to other positions. Lastly, the agency requests $1.5 million SGF to repay overpayment of the unemployment benefits owed by the Federal Emergency Management Agency, FEMA, for Lost Wages Assistance Program. In 23, the Lost Wages Assistance Program allowed states to provide up to $400 additional weekly unemployment benefits to eligible claimants. Of that amount, $300 was funded through a $44 billion allocation from FEMA Disaster Relief Fund. Repayment of the overpayment benefits is required to FEMA grant. In the fiscal year 2023, revised estimate also includes $378,516 in off-budget expenditures and 2.9 off-budget FTE positions, which are categorized as such to avoid double counting payments from one agency to the other. In fiscal year 2023, the off-budget expenditure decreased by $110,968, or 22.7% below the approved amount. The governor recommends $228.2 million in on-budget expenditures and 445.2 on-budget FTE positions in fiscal year 2023, including $25.2 million SGF, $138 million from the UI Trust Fund, and $34 million from the federal funds. The recommendation is a decrease of 5.1 or 2.2% below the agency's revised estimate and is primarily due to the governor's recommendation not to adopt the following supplemental request: increasing the funding for UI program personnel, 3.9 million SGF, additional law enforcement personnel, 422,786 SGF, salary increases for IT personnel, 224 SGF, and funding to repay the overpayment of the unemployment benefits, 1.5 million FGF, and funding to support continued PUA operations, 16.5 SGF. The decrease is partially offset the governor's recommendation for 20.5 million SGF in one-time expenditures for the unfunded portion of the UI modernization project in 2023 instead of the agency's request of $3 million in 23 and $10 million for the SGF for 24. In total, the governor recommends 7.5 million SGF more than the amount requested by the agency. The governor also recommends lapsing up to 20.5 million SGF if federal funding in excess of the federal funds currently encumbered for the project are available. The recommendation also includes 378,516 in off-budget expenditures and 2.9 off-budget FTE positions, which is the same as the agency revised estimate in 23. The subcommittee concurs with the governor's recommendation for 23.
Any questions on 23? Seeing none, please proceed.
The agency requests $197.5 million in on-budget expenditures and 443 on-budget FTE positions for fiscal year 2024, including 22 million SGF, 137.6 million from the UI Trust Fund, and 17.5 million from federal funds. This represents a decrease of 35.8 million, or 14.5%, or 15.4% below the revised estimate for fiscal year 2023. The request includes enhancement funding for 5 items, including 17.3 million in additional spending. The largest request is for 10 million SGF for the unfunded portion of the UI modernization program or project in 2024. This is an increase of 7 million SGF above the requested for the same purpose in 23. The agency estimates the cost for modernization to be 16.3 million for fiscal year 24, 6.3 million of which is currently funded. Project tasks scheduled for 24 include acceptance testing, end-to-end testing, training, and go-live operations. The agency also requests 6.7 SGF for UI program positions for fiscal year 2024. This is an increase of 2.8 million SGF above the requested amount for the same purpose in 2023. These positions were established to address the backlog resulting from the COVID-19 pandemic, and the agency indicates that the funding sources are not currently available to be allocated for these positions. The funding would support UI program operations as such, as some of these existing personnel are diverted to the UI modernization program. The funding also provides salary increases to certain positions that the agency has found to be inadequate and compared to other positions. This request also includes 418,262 in off-budget expenditures and 2.9 off-budget FTE positions, which are categorized as such to avoid double counting payments from one state agency to the other. For fiscal year 2024, off-budget expenditures increased by 39,746, or 10.5% above the revised estimate for 23. The governor recommends $180.2 million in on-budget expenditures and 443.3 on-budget FTE positions for fiscal year 2024. This includes 4.8 million SGF, 137.6 million from the UI Trust Fund, and 34 million from federal funds. The recommendation is a decrease of 17.3 million, or 78% below the agency's request, and is primarily due to funding the unfunded portion of the UI modernization project in 23 instead of 24, which is $10 million. The decrease is also due to the governor's recommendation not to adopt the following enhancement request: increased funding for the UI program personnel, which is 6.7 million SGF, additional law enforcement personnel, 404,656 SGF, and salary increases for the IT department of 211,224. The recommendation also includes 418,262 in off-budget expenditures and 2.9 off-budget FTE, which is the same as the agency's request for 2024. And the subcommittee concurs with the governor's recommendation for 2024.
Questions on 24? Seeing none?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion we approve the 23 and 24 subcommittee report for the Kansas Department of Labor.
Motion second by Senator Clays. Any questions, discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed, motion carries. Thank you, Senator Alley. Next, we'll move on to Transparency and Ethics Committee. Senator McGinn, Behavioral Science Regulatory Board.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The agency submits a revised estimate of $1 million to $24,000, all from the BSRB fee fund in expenditures for the 9.5 FTE positions in 23. This is an increase of 12,200 or 1.2 above the 22 legislature. This increase is due to increased expenditures for legal services from the Office of the Attorney General. Governor recommends the expenditures of $1 million, $12,000, all from the BSRB fund, the 9.5 FTEs for 23, and the decrease of 12,200. The decrease is due to the governor not recommending the agency's supplemental request for the increased legal services fee. Committee concurs with the governor's recommendation for 23.
Questions on 23? Seeing none, please proceed.
For 24, the agency requests $1 million, all from the BSRB fund, and expenditures of 9.5 FTEs for 24, increase of 26,400. Or 2.6% above the revised estimate of 23. This increase is due to increased expenditures to the Office of the Attorney General for legal services, increased expenditures for the Kansas State Board of Healing Arts for maintaining the licensing system, and resumed travel following COVID-19. Governor concurs with the agency's budget for 24. Committee concurs with the governor's budget for 24.
Questions on 24? Seeing none, please proceed.
25, the agency requests $1,770,000 from the BSRB fee fund in expenditures of 9.5 positions. In 25, this is an increase of 22,900 above the agency's 24 request, and this is due to the increased expenditures of the Office of the Attorney General for legal services, increased expenses for the State Board of Healing Arts, and maintaining the licensing system, as well as resumed travel for COVID-19. Governor concurs with the agency's request for 25, and the subcommittee concurs with the governor's budget for 2025.
Questions on 25? Seeing none,
I
please make your motion.
to approve the behavioral sciences regulatory budget for 23, 24, and 25.
Motion second by Senator Clays. Any questions? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Next, we'll have the Kansas Department of Credit Unions. Senator McGinn.
The agency submits a revised estimate of 1.3, all from the credit union fee fund for 23. This is not an overall change in the agency's budget amount. However, there are several shifts in the categories of expenditures. In the salaries and wages area, the revised estimate includes an additional $44,000 in salaries and wages expenditure, and this increase is due to an effort to retain experienced staff for additional salaries for temporary employees while looking to fill the FTE positions. Contractual services, the revised estimate reduces the amount in contractual services by $51,700, and this decrease is due to less travel than what was expected to occur in 23. Capital outlay, the agency includes a budgeted expenditure of replacing a vehicle in its fleet during '23. This is an increase of $30,000, which is partially offset by the decrease in funds requested for the office furniture and computer equipment. The total increase in capital outlay for '23 is $10,300. The revised estimate includes 12 FTE positions, which is the same number approved. Doesn't say approved, probably as the previous year. The governor concurs with the agency's '23 revised estimate, and the committee also concurs with the governor's recommendation for '23.
Questions on 23? Seeing none, please proceed.
For '24, the agency requests $1.3 million, all from the credit union fee fund. For '24, this is an increase of $1,087 above the 2023 revised estimate. In the area of salaries and wages, the agency requests includes an additional $1,000 in salaries and wages expenditures, and this increase is mostly due to merit increases in salaries. The agency increased their pay for regular and classified employees by $36,600. The employer contributions for fringe benefits also increases by $10,500. This increase is partially offset by the reduction of $46,000 in salaries and wages by eliminating classified temporary positions. The request includes 12 FTE positions, which is the same number as '23 revised estimate. The governor recommends $1.3 million, all from the credit union fee fund for '24. This is a decrease of $44,700 below the agency's request for '24. The governor recommendation does not include the agency's enhancement request for merit-based increases in salaries and wages. And the subcommittee agreed with the governor's recommendation.
Questions on 24? Seeing none, please proceed.
For '25, the agency requests $1.3 million, all from the credit union fee fund for '25. This is an increase of $4,100 above the '24 request. The salaries and wages, the agency request includes an additional $4,100 in salaries and wages expenses. This is an increase due to expected increases in employer contributions for fringe benefits. This estimate includes 12 FTE positions, which is the same number as '24. Governor recommends the $1.3 million, all from the credit union fee funds for '25. This is a decrease of $46,500 below the '24 agency request. The governor's recommendation does not include the agency's enhancement request for merit-based increases in salaries and wages. The subcommittee concurs with the governor's recommendation for '25.
Questions on 25? Seeing none, please make your motion.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move that the Department of Credit Unions budget be advanced for '23, '24, and '25.
Motion second by Senator Clays. Any questions? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Next, we'll have the Office of the State Bank Commissioner. Senator McGinn.
For '23, the agency requests a revised estimate of $13 million, all from special revenue funds. This is an increase of $300,000 above the 2023 approved amount. Significant increases in the revised estimate include the following. The supplemental would be the board member per diem increases. The revised estimate includes a supplemental request to increase the board member per diem rates. Agency has historically reported having issues recruiting the state banking board due to, in part, large part, by the low per diem rate. Supplemental staff salary increases. The revised estimate includes a supplemental request to provide merit-based staff salary increases. The agency is historically having issues retaining staff due to wage competition in the private sector. Supplemental to additional staff, a third supplemental request for 2 additional specialized examiners. The 2 FT positions would be information technology examiners and would conduct IT exams for banks to check the risks and exposures of cybersecurity. Travel-related expenditure increases. The revised estimate includes several increases for the travel-related expenditures. This is for training of the agency staff in all areas of expertise, as well as in-person examinations with the state-owned banks. During the COVID-19 pandemic, the training, schools, conferences, and programs moved to virtual events, resumption of in-person training, and in-person portions of exams are included in the revised estimate. The agency requests 112 FTE positions for 23. This is an increase of 2 FTE positions above the number for the purposes of adding 2 IT examiners as explained above. The governor recommends $12.7 million, all from special revenue funds for 23. This is an overall decrease of $259,400, below the agency's 23 revised estimate. The governor's recommendation does not include the agency's supplemental request for board member per diem increases or staff salary increases. Governor recommends $39,800, all from special revenue funds, to provide partial year funding for 2 IT examiners. Governor's recommendation includes 112 FTEs, which is the same amount of the agency's request for 23. The subcommittee concurs with the governor's recommendation for 23.
Any questions on 23? Seeing none, please proceed.
Agency requests $13 million, all from special revenue funds for 24. This is an increase of $65,100 above the 23 estimate. Notable terms in the agency's request include the following: an enhancement, board member per diem. The request includes an enhancement request to maintain the supplemental request for 23 to increase the board members' per diem rates. The agency has historically reported issues recruiting the state banking board due to part low per diem rate. Enhancement staff salary increases. This increase includes enhancement requests to continue to provide merit-based staff salary increases requested in 23 estimate. Agency historically reported retaining staff due to competition in the private and federal sectors. 2 additional staff. This request includes 2 FTE positions for 23. 2 IT examiners would conduct IT exams for banks. Agency requests 112 FTEs for 24. This is the same number as in 23. Governor's recommendation is $13 million, all from special revenue funds for 24. This is a decrease of $69,000 below the agency's request for 24. Governor's recommendation does not include the enhancement request for board member per diem increases or staff salary increases. Governor's recommendation does include $158,500 from special revenue funds for 2 FTE IT examiner positions. Governor recommendation includes the 112 FTE, which is the same amount for 24. Subcommittee concurs with the governor's recommendation with the following adjustment: add $12,400, all from special revenue funds, to pay for board member per diem increases, and add language to direct this money can only be used if there is a change in the statutory limit of the board members per diem for 24.
Questions on 24?
So everybody knows they do have to pass it in statute, and that's what's sitting out there. So, right.
See no questions, please proceed.
The agency requests $12.9 million, all from special revenue funds for 25. This is a decrease of $90,000 below the 24 requests. Significant items are enhancement, board member per diem. Boy, I really feel repetitive here. The request includes enhanced requests to maintain the increased board member per diem rates as requested. In the revised estimate of 23 and 24, agency historically reports they're having recruiting problems. Enhancement, staff salary increases. The request includes enhanced requests to continue to provide merit-based increases. In the revised estimate is 23, 24. And historically, we're having trouble because of competition in the private and federal sectors. Also, add 2 FTE staff. This is to the 2 FTE positions in 23 and 24 would be 2 IT examiners for banks to check the risks and exposures of cybersecurity. Other adjustments: there is an anticipated decrease in employer contribution for group health insurance of $135,200, and which would be below the 24 request. There's also an increase in contractual service estimates of $40,300 above the 24 request, mainly for additional travel-related expenses and other contractual services. Agency requests 112 FTEs for 25, same number as 24. Governor recommends 12.9 million, all from special revenue funds for 25. This is a decrease of 68,600 below the agency's request for 25. The governor's recommendation does not include the enhancement request for board member per diem increases or staff salary increases. The governor's recommendation does include 157,100, all from special revenue funds for 2 FTEs for the IT examiner positions. Governor's recommendation includes 112 FTE positions, which is the same amount, request for 25. Subcommittee on Transparency and Ethics concurs with the governor's recommendation with one adjustment. Add 12,420, all from special revenue funds to pay for the board member per diem increases, and add language to direct that money can only be used if there's a change in the statutory limit for the board members per diems of for year 2025.
Questions on 25? Senator Petty.
Thank you. And actually, this kind of covers all of them. So I noticed that the subcommittee made the recommendation for 24 and 25, but not for 23 concerning the, if the statutory language changed for the board member per diem. Is that correct?
Well, if the statutory language would change, it would begin July 1, which would be starting our year for 24.
Okay, thanks for that clarification. And then the other is that, that continued request for those 2 positions, which the governor does fund, but the agency request doesn't change from 112. Would it go to 114 then?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good question. I kind of noticed that throughout. I don't know why those positions that wouldn't change. I guess they would change. I don't know that the governor has. Hi. The half year in 23 and then moves up, and that's how you get to your 112. And she's not listening, so I'll make a motion. Mr. Chairman, if there's no further questions.
Any further questions? 1 second. She's
Still thinking? Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If there's no further questions, I move adoption of the budget for 23, 24, and 25 for the Office of the State Bank Commissioner.
We have a motion, second by Senator Clays. Any other questions? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Senator McGinn. Next, we'll move on to the Agriculture and Natural Resource Committee. Senator Kirshen, Kansas Department of Wildlife and Parks.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The agency submits an fiscal year 2023 revised estimate of $100.7 million, including $224,457 from the State Water Plan Fund and $3.7 million from the Economic Development Initiatives Fund. This is an increase of $1.7 million or 1.7% above the 2003 approved amount. This increase is primarily attributable to an increase totaling $1.3 million for salary and wage increases, which include changes to employer contributions to fringe benefits. The agency indicates vacancy rates have been higher than normal, and is estimated that the salary and wage improved by the 2022 budget will increase staffing levels and increase agency supplemental requests. The agency fiscal year 2023 revised estimate includes 456 FTEs positions, which is 3 positions above the approved amount. Governor's recommendation, the governor recommends fiscal year 2023 expenditures of $100.5 million, including $224,457 State Water Plan Fund and $3,785,406 from EDIF. The recommendation is a decrease of $132,000 or less than 1% below the agency's fiscal year 2023 revised estimate. The difference is attributable to the governor not recommending agency supplemental requests, partially offset by the addition of $300,000, all from special revenue funds for parks and operational expenditures, as well as body-worn camera. The subcommittee concurs with the governor's recommendation for 2023.
Questions on 23? Seeing none, please proceed. Oh, Senator Fagg, excuse me.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I was questioning the $2.5 million that added to KDWP law enforcement officers to the Kansas Police and Fire retirement system. Is that a bill already covering that, or is there one in the works? Just wondering how that was being handled.
I don't think.
That's 24.
Oh, it's 24. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm ahead of you. I'll save my question till later.
Okay,
Forget it.
okay. Any other questions? Seeing none, please proceed.
All right, moving on to 24. Agency requests expenditures totaling $106.1 million from all funding sources, including $224,457 from the State Water Plant Fund and $3.7 million from the EDIF for fiscal 2024. The request is an increase of $5.5 million or 5.4% above the 23 revised estimate. The increase is attributable to enhancements for law enforcement, software, utilities, and vehicles. The agency also increased capital improvement expenditures of $5.4 million or 32% above the fiscal year 2023 revised estimate. The increase is primarily in fish and wildlife, wetlands and development, motorboat access, and shooting range development for fiscal 2024. The agency request, where's that now? Okay, sorry about that. The agency request includes 456 full-time equivalent positions. The governor recommendations, the governor recommends expenditures totaling $112.2 million, including $3.1 million SGF, $224,457 from the State Water Plan Fund, and $4.2 million EDIF. The request is an increase of $6 million or 5.7% above the fiscal year 2024 agency request. The governor does not recommend adoption of the 3 agency enhancement requests. However, the recommendation includes the addition of $325,000 for operational expenditures. The governor further recommends adding funding to purchase the Lovewell Wildlife Area, $600,000, $500,000 and 2 FTE positions for parks and trails to meet federal grant matching requirements, $74,716 and 1 FTE position for a legal assistant, funding for dam repairs, $2.5 million for FGF, and $2.5 million to add to the Kansas Department of Wildlife and Parks law enforcement officers to the Kansas Police and Firemen's retirement system. The governor also recommends 459 FTEs, which is 3 FTEs more than the agency request. Additional 3 FTEs positions are related to enhancements recommended by the governor. The committee concurs with the governor's recommendation for fiscal year 2024.
Senator Fagg.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll ask my question now. Thank you. I apologize. When I look through this governor's recommendation, there's $2.5 million to add to the Kansas Department of Wildlife and Parks law enforcement officers to the Kansas Police and Fire retirement system. Is there a bill already covering this, or is there one in the works? I'm questioning the funding of this.
It's in the works?
There's one in the works?
Okay. 3 people trying to tell me one thing. Okay.
It's actually an update.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just found out there's one in the works of the House. That's House Bill 2198, I believe you said it was, and it is addressing that.
Senator Fagg.
Mr. Chairman, could we just move that portion to omnibus in and discuss it at that point? If that's in the works, to see where it goes.
Senator Christian. Okay. Is that a motion? And seconded by Senator Clays. Any other questions? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? We'll move that to omnibus.
Make the motion.
I think, any other questions on 24? Seeing none, Senator Kirshen, you can make your motion.
Thank you very much. I move we approve the budget for wildlife and parks for 23 and 24 with the, as amended.
We have a motion, we have a second by Senator Clays. Any questions? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Next, we will have Kansas Water Office, Senator Kirshen.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Kansas Water Office, the agency submits a revised estimate of $19.6 million, including $4.1 million from the State General Fund and 19 FTE positions in fiscal year 2023. Revised estimate is equal to the agency's approved budget. Included in the agency's approved budget are reapportionments totaling $3 million from this SGF and reappropriations totaling $2.7 million from the State Water Plan Fund. The agency also requests one additional FTE position above the agency's fiscal 2023 approved number. The increase is due to the agency filling a previously vacant position. Governor's recommendation, the governor concurs with the agency's revised estimate and adds an additional $53 million SGF for future use for water storage debt payoff associated with Milford and Perry Lake reservoirs. And the subcommittee concurs with the governor's position for fiscal 2023 with the following adjustments. On the back side of the page. All right, number one, delete $53 million all SGF to not adopt the governor's recommendation to pay off future use storage debt associated with Milford and Perry Lake reservoirs. Two, add $200,000 all SGF for the Department of Agriculture's Soil Health Initiative. Number three, add $65,758 all SGF for the Department of Agriculture's Water Resource Cost Share Program. Staff note, recommendations 2 and 3 would use $255,758 all SGF of the $53 million debt payoff with Milford and Perry Lake reservoirs for the Soil Health Initiative and Water Resources Cost Share Program. The Senate Committee on Ways and Means included $200,000 all from the State Water Plant Fund for the Department of Agriculture's Soil Health Initiative in fiscal year 2024. Number four, transfer $50 million from the SGF to a newly investment fund to the Office of the State Treasurer interest income, and this fund would be used to pay off future use and storage debt associated with Milford and Perry Lake reservoirs.
Questions on 23? Senator Fagg.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Number four, the transfer of $50 million. I would like to change that to 52. At the time that we set that number up, we didn't know the exact payoff of the two lakes. And since then, it takes a little time to get the federal government to give you a payoff. But the water office had got one, and it was like 51,801, 590. So I'd like to change that to 52, and that would be my amendment. And I have a proviso that goes into detail of exactly how this is to be handled. I could sit here and read this, but it's longer than our report. But it's the kind of thing that we're going to take this money, set it aside, invest it in treasuries. I'd worked up a deal a month ago when rates were at 4.85 that we would be making $1 million off of this in a year's time. Rates have went up a little higher since then. It gives us a flexibility. The treasurer would be the one doing this. The thing that become a concern is if we needed the water storage released, and we've got this built into this proviso exactly how that works. So I think you might have got one, but what's going on? Do you have any questions? I'd be happy to read this, but it'd probably lose you in some of the detail. So
Give us just one minute or two here. We'll just let everyone look over the.
Sure. Any funds left over too will be dropped back into state general fund. So whatever we make, that's where the money goes.
Okay, we'll do some questions. So Senator Fagg, you're going to take this money and you're going to invest it with the treasury. He's going to invest it. And in treasuries, and once the treasuries would reduce to a certain amount, when would you trigger this if the treasuries got close to where the arbitrage wasn't working?
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As we go forward, nobody knows what rates are going to do. So if rates were to go down on this, this would immediately trigger that we pay this off. So that's the state treasurer would be monitoring that, and I would envision 6-month, 1-year treasuries. When they mature, he'd look at that. If the rate's still higher, you do it. If it's lower, we get out.
So we're just deferring the payoff and collecting the arbitrage, and it's approximately $1 million or more with the rates being as high as they are currently.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I got for like a year, we're talking $1 million, and this was a couple weeks ago. Rates are a little higher today than they were then. So,
okay. Other questions, Senator Pittman?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. You asked the same question I was going to ask. When the arbitrage gets $1 million, where does that $1 million go per year, if that's, for example, the amount?
Mr. Chairman, I would envision that it would stay in that account with the state treasurer, because when we wipe this out, then all the money goes to SGF at that point.
Other questions? Seeing none, if you'd like to make your motion.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would move that we amend item number 4 on the committee's report to show 52 million and also include in the minutes the proviso for FY 2023 and 2024 on the state water supply storage debt fund.
We have a motion. We have a second by Senator Clays. Any questions, or Senator Pittman?
I would be remiss. I will note that my colleague, Senator Francisco, notes that because we're going to do this, and I think it's an innovative idea, but because we're doing this, the debt will still be there, and we won't have that money that was going to be in the fund there, that when we paid off the debt in the budget, that won't be reinvested currently into water marketing programs or other services to help with the state reservoir. So I just want to make that note on her behalf, and I agree with her sentiment, but I think it's a neat idea. Thanks.
Any other questions? Seeing none, Senator Fagg made the motion, second by Senator Clays. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Senator Kirshen, if you'd like to proceed to 24?
I need a motion for 23 first.
If you'd like to, yes. Let's go ahead and pass 23, being we amended it.
Make the motion to amend, approve the amendment for wildlife, for state water plan and for 2023.
So we have a motion, second by Senator Clays, to approve the governor rec with the following amendment. Correct? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Senator Kirshen. If you'd like to go to 24.
Agency requests 15.8 million, including 1.1 million SGF and 19 FTE positions for fiscal year 2024. This is an all funds decrease of 3.8 million or 19.5%, including an SGF decrease of $3 million or 73.5% below the fiscal year 23 revised estimate. The decreases are attributable to the absence of SGF and State Water Plan Fund reappropriations totaling $3 million and $2.7 million respectively, which do not reoccur for fiscal year 2024. These decreases are partially offset by two agency enhancements requests totaling $900,000 for fiscal year '24. Enhancements requested by the agency would expand partnerships for water quality in the High Plains Aquifer. The governor's recommendation, the governor concurs with the agency's '24 request, which includes recommending the adoption of the agency's enhancement request for fiscal year 2024. This subcommittee concurs with the governor's recommendation for 2024.
Any questions on 24? Senator Petty.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think Senator Pittman referred to this, but I'm going to read the minority report to ensure that the state general funds currently available future use storage debt associated with Milford and Perry Lake reservoirs are used to retire that debt. Please consider using them to pay off the debt rather than following the recommendations to invest $50 million with the state treasurer. Alternatively, please consider limiting the transfer to 18 months so that the debt will be paid off before the next biennium of the Kansas legislature. When the future use storage debt is paid off, funds now being used for the water marketing program for debt payment will be available for investment and maintenance of all our state reservoirs. And that is the minority report. It's coming from Senator Marcy Francisco, who sits on ag with Senator Kirshen.
So noted. Any other questions? Seeing none, Senator Kirshen, if you'd like to make your motion.
I move we adopt the budget report for State Water Plan Fund for fiscal 2024.
I have a motion, second by Senator Clays. Any questions? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed, motion carries. Next, we'll have Kansas Department of Health and Environment. Senator Kirshen.
This covers the environment portion of Kansas KDH&E. So the agency estimates a Division of Environment revised fiscal year 2020 the expenditures of $153.5 million, including $36.8 million SGF. This is an all funds increase of $5.5 million or 3.7% above the fiscal year 23 approved amount. The agency's revised estimate includes the following adjustments. Federal funds. The agency estimates increased receipt of COVID-19 pandemic relief federal funds in 23, and specifically, the agency estimates an additional $2.1 million from the Federal Centers for Disease Control due to COVID-19 for the laboratory equipment and supplies. Environmental Stewardship Fund. The agency estimates increased expenditures of $1.9 million from the Environmental Stewardship Fund in the revised fiscal year 2023 estimate. These funds will primarily be spent on contractual services in the Bureau of Environmental Remediation. State Water Plan Fund also reappropriations. The agency estimates include State Water Plan Fund reappropriations totaling $1,055,068. The majority of these funds carried over from projects for monitoring, analyzing, and preventing harmful algae blooms in Kansas lakes. The agency's revised estimate includes 488 FTEs, which is a decrease of 16.9. FTE positions below the approved number. The decrease is all in the laboratory area. The governor concurs with the agency's fiscal year 2023 revised estimate, and the subcommittee concurs with the governor's recommendations for fiscal 2023.
Questions on 23? Seeing none, please proceed.
Moving over to 2024, the agency requests Division of Environment fiscal year 2024 expenditures of $177.4 million, including $34.4 million SGF. This is an all funds increase of $24 million or 15.6%, including an SGF decrease of $2.4 million or 6.6% from the division's fiscal year 23 estimate. The agency requests include the following adjustments. Number one, enhancement request, local environmental protection program. The agency is requesting $250,000 all from the State Water Plan Fund to increase available funding and technical assistance to enable local authorities to develop water protection plans. Enhancement request, stream trash removal. The Bureau of Water is requesting $50,000 off from the State Water Plan Fund for fiscal 24 for a pilot effort to remove and keep trash out of the Kansas rivers. These funds will support cleanup efforts such as grants or to conduct stream cleanup efforts and capture trash before it discharges into the stream. enhancement request, small town infrastructure assistance. The Bureau of Water is requesting $30 million in 2024 to support technical assistance and drinking water and sewer system upgrades for towns with less than 500 population. The funding will be used to initiate a grant program to provide small towns with technical and financial assistance, improving their drinking water and sewer infrastructure and returning them to compliance. Enhancement request of laboratory equipment. KDHE Laboratory is requesting $280,000 SGF for 2024 to fund the ongoing retirement and replacement of aging laboratory equipment. Laboratory plans to replace the instruments used to perform drinking water testing. Laboratory construction. The agency's revised request was a decrease of $32.5 million SGF for one-time expenditures that were included in the fiscal year 2023 revised estimate and not included in the fiscal year 2024 request. Fiscal year 2024 request includes an increase of $30.9 million in federal funds for laboratory construction in 2024. The governor recommends fiscal year 2024 Division of Environment expenditures totaling $147.4 million, including $4.4 million SGF. This is a decrease of $30 million, all SGF, below the agency's fiscal year 2024 request. This decrease is due to the governor not recommending the agency's enhancement request for small town infrastructure assistance. The governor did recommend funding the agency's enhancement request for stream trash removal, local environmental protection programs, and replacement for laboratory equipment. The committee concurs with the governor's recommendation for 2024.
Questions on 24? Senator Pittman.
I'll just be brief. Yesterday I was testifying in front of the subcommittee, basically in the House, on this budget. And the reason why is inside of our little area of Leavenworth County, a little town called Easton, about 5 miles west of Fort Leavenworth, there's a pit that's been designated as a construction and debris type, C&D type landfill. It's been bought by a Missouri business owner, and they've basically brought a huge amount of stuff from KCI, and it's had a huge burning problem over the last year. Residents were up here. It was kind of a big scene. And Kate, I'm just going to sit here, since it is the budget, briefly and reemphasize that I'm hoping KDHE can work with the county commissioners to come up with a resolution here. They've increased the amount of trash and organic material and other things inside of this by 100-fold. And we really need to come to a resolution. So I just want to put those out there, Mr. Chair, and make sure this committee is aware that there's an issue out there with this. Thank you.
Thank you. Other questions? Seeing none. Senator Kirshner, if you'd like to make your motion for 23 and 24.
I move we adopt the recommended budget for 2023 and 2024.
Motion second by Senator Clays. Any questions? Seeing none. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. At this time, we'll recognize Senator McGinn for a bill introduction.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have a bill introduction, and it is RS 1363. It has to do with substantial interest forms at the local level.
Without objection, we'll accept that. Senator McGinn, she didn't hear you.
It has to do with filling out substantial interest forms at the local level. Right now, it's very loosely done. This just tightens it up. And then I do have an announcement once this is approved.
Okay, without objection, accept it. Any other discussion? Senator McGinn.
Thank you. This is an announcement about the KDAD's deliberations. It will start 10 minutes after the hour instead of at noon. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Any other announcements? Seeing none? We are adjourned.